The question is, now that Democrats have lost, now that Trump has won his second term, albeit skipped one, right? So this is he's 45th and 47th president. How are Democrats going to react? That is, I think, the big question. This could go one of two ways. One way is Democrats could just accept it, maybe look inward and figure out what they did wrong. Maybe they could look through all of the things and they could say, well, it turns out the voters didn't like any of these things. Like maybe we should change. Maybe we should focus on the bread and butter issues. Maybe we should, rather than calling everybody a racist and a bigot and a misogynist and blaming it on sexism or what all these other things, maybe we should look inward and put forward better candidates with better ideas. That's one way. I don't know if I trust that Democrats are going to do that. I don't know if I trust that Democrats are going to look inward and actually have this sort of like come to Jesus moment. You guys just suck. You suck really bad. It's really, really bad. The phone calls I've had today with a lot of depressed people who are extremely sad that Trump has won, their takeaway is the same takeaway you'd expect, which is it's racism, misogyny. Half the country is just evil. And that's what the reasoning is for this. They're not looking inward to the fact that Democrats have done everything they can to destroy families, to destroy society. And I don't mean just with, the trans movement and, all of these different things that people point to as being a destruction of families. I'm talking about hate and anger, the hate and anger that has been bred by Democrats because they put out these messages of the only reason why anybody would vote for Donald Trump is because of racism and hate. And anybody who voted for him is a racist and a hateful person. And that has made half the country hate the other half. Interestingly, the half that's accusing the other half of hate are actually the ones being hateful. They're the ones being hateful. They're the ones cutting us off. They're the ones not wanting to talk to us. I had a family member today say that her daughter's friend, her parents are happy that Trump won. And they told her if Trump wins that they'd buy her this, gift or something. And she said that she told her daughter she couldn't hang out with that friend anymore. And I said, you just cannot do that. We can't go down that path. You have to just understand that this is a democracy and that in this democracy, people have choices. Ironically, I have another family member here who just happens to be from Vietnam. I mentioned this yesterday. I have family here from Vietnam. They've never been here before. They've never been to the States. They've never been to North or South America, to this part of the globe, in fact. And I told them, oh boy, you guys are here for a fun time. It's election. It's the biggest election. And they're like, oh yeah. And they didn't really talk much about it. But one thing that they said was, well, you're lucky. You're lucky you have democracy. We don't have freedom. My cousin said, oh, we don't have that kind of freedom. We are told we have a couple of choices. We don't get to choose those choices. And we have to vote for one of those choices. And it's like 2 or 3 choices that the Communist Party gives us. And they're all in the Communist Party. And we don't have any other choices outside of that. So I had the opportunity to show them my ballot and to kind of walk them through the process and all of the different measures we vote on, all of the different seats that we vote for. And they noticed, one of my cousin noticed, she says, oh, wow, what's this write-in? I said, yeah, if we don't like any of the candidates, we have the option to write in an option. Write in somebody that we like. You could write in yourself. You could write in your neighbor. You could write in whoever you want. And my cousins from Vietnam were amazed at this type of freedom that we have, this type of democracy where we get to actually choose. So I reminded my other family members of this. I told them, look, you might not be happy with the choice. You might think that this is the end of democracy. This is it. Tyranny will ensue. Fascism is here. But don't say that too loud around the other family members here who literally have no choice, who literally are amazed by the fact that we have this type of election at all, that we have the option to choose all of these different candidates from different parties and even write somebody in if we don't like all the options. And just appreciate the fact that we have this democracy rather than just looking at each other as evil and awful and and we should cut them off because they're just so terrible. I mean, Democrats, this is the thing. Why do they think they lost? Why do you think they lost? Because I just think they're still going down this road. They have got to learn. They've got to learn that them losing has everything to do with all of the crap they pulled. They pulled so much crap from the witch hunts starting in 2016, calling everybody Nazis, putting people online. Do you remember this? From 2016 on, when they melted down over the first election, what did they do? They went online. They went on these social media witch hunts. Do you remember this? Whip out your camera and catch anybody doing anything that you think is even quasi-racist and put them all over social media, ruin their lives. That's what they did after the 2016 election, if you remember. This is the first thing they did. After calling everybody a Nazi, they whipped out their phones. They started filming anybody and everybody walking down the street, at a Starbucks, in a coffee shop, anywhere they could. And they put them online and they said, this person is a racist, shame them, shun them. And then they got them to lose their jobs. And then after that, they started some censorship online. The whole Cambridge Analytica thing is where it started, Russian disinformation. And so anybody who's potentially a Russian bot gets censored and taken off the internet. Then there was the Me Too movement, and they started going after, rightfully, a lot of men and women who had misbehaved at work, who had taken advantage of their position and taken advantage of women around them. I have been a victim of that. It is 100%. That there was a pervasive hypersexual culture in the workforce that has been disgusting and demeaning towards women. That had to end. Bottom line, had to end. But a lot of good guys got dragged in the mud over this, right? They went too far. They not only got the ones that needed to be gotten, but then they went after ones that were just like bad dates. You know, like the guy just didn't like you and didn't call you back. Or, you know, you maybe made a bad decision when you went on a date with the guy, and the next thing you know, you're trying to claim that this guy pressured you and that didn't happen. And the Me Too movement went too far. And there were people who lost their jobs. They lost their livelihoods. They were smeared. And they did this to people all in an effort to get Trump. I mean, that's really what they were doing. The whole reason why they went after racists and put them all over social media was because they said Trump was a racist. The reason why they went after Cambridge Analytica and all the disinformation and all the Russian bots was because they thought Trump was put into presidency because of Russia. Then the reason why they went after all of the men in the Me Too movement was because of grab 'em by the pussy. Trump, it was all to get Trump. That's where all of this stemmed from. All of it. And then they continued down this path of misinformation. We have to stop misinformation. And they ramped up on that one. And they started going after Americans who were just conservative. They started going after people that were anti-war, which they've always gone after, but they ramped it up during Trump's term. They went after Trump. They impeached him twice. They went after his family members. They tried to show us your tax returns. Rachel Maddow, show us your tax returns. Show us your tax returns. I mean, they just went absolutely bonkers crazy. And then the pandemic hit, and they got lucky on this one, or maybe they were maybe they amped it up, hyped it up, knowing that it wasn't that big of a, it wasn't a virus that was really no different than a really bad flu fundamentally. And they hyped it up because they wanted to collapse the Trump presidency. I mean, they showed that they were willing to do absolutely anything to get rid of that guy, right? Anything to get rid of him. So they did. They amped up the pandemic. We had lockdowns all throughout 2020. Trump was president, yes, but red states stayed open. Blue states locked down to an insane amount. I know I went back and forth between where I live in California and my home in Idaho. I went back and forth. Idaho was wide open and wonderful. California, we were showing vaccine passports just to get into the movie theater or restaurants. And it was like that for a long time. And they use that and they collapse the economy, all because they know it's the economy that ultimately decides elections. So they ensured that the good economy that was happening and that was thriving under Donald Trump collapsed with the COVID pandemic. And I wouldn't put it past them if that was just a political plot. So then we ended up with a pandemic. And what has happened since 2020? Things have only gotten worse. And here they are scratching their heads, wondering what the hell happened last night. How in the world did Trump win? Well, maybe because Trump didn't start any wars, but Biden sure did. We're sitting here in a never-ending war with Russia. We're backing Ukraine endlessly. They've got hundreds of thousands of people slaughtered, and they're not even telling Ukraine, look, we've got to have some sort of a negotiation. You got to get along with your bigger neighbor. That neighbor isn't going anywhere. Russia isn't moving. So Ukraine really does need to get along with Russia. But no, we're not encouraging that. We're instead telling them to join the West. We promise at some point we'll let you join the West. We'll let you join NATO at some point. We don't know when. They're just dangling the carrot in front of them. The economy, gaslighting everybody into believing the economy is great when the economy is not great. Inflation is so high, home prices are high, people can't afford things. Then they try to gaslight us into believing that their candidate, that the president doesn't have dementia when he's clearly suffering mentally. No fault of his own. He's just old age, but it is what it is. And they gaslit us, trying to tell us no. They gaslit us about Hunter Biden's laptop. That's not real. That's Russian disinformation. It was so completely, totally real. They've gaslit us into all this lies and misinformation. They gaslit us about COVID. You're going to kill grandma. You're a grandma killer if you actually follow the science. I mean, and look at what happened. Alyssa Farah, who's sitting on The View right now, guys. Look at how well her career has gone. She is now on The View. She's famous. She's making a bunch of money. That is how actual true misinformation coming from the mouth of an idiot is actually, that's promoted in this media landscape. I sat right next to her on Rising and I said, the vaccines do not stop the spread. And Alyssa Farah goes, whoa, 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 whoa. They absolutely do stop the spread. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yes, they do. Oh my God, misinformation. And she gets promoted. She's on CNN. Last night I watched her have a meltdown over Trump winning on CNN. And she's on The View. That's the type of stuff that gets promoted while they sit there and demonize guys like Joe Rogan, who has a much bigger audience than anybody. And they make Joe Rogan feel like, they tell Joe Rogan viewers, they smear the millions of people who listen to Joe Rogan as being misinformation idiots who just buy it, racists, Proud Boys, right? That's how they paint people that listen to independent media. And they promote and give career advancement to those who literally lie and literally are idiots, like literal idiots. And they put them in positions of power. And then they wonder why we are revolting against them. They wonder why we don't want to take their bullshit. We're not going to be fed this and actually believe any of it. And last night was an absolute referendum on all of the crap that they have put us through for the last 8 years. They've put us through a ton of crap. They have lied to us. They have been wrong the entire time. I cannot think of a time they were right about anything they've claimed. They've been wrong. They claim they're saving democracy, and then they put the old guy out to pasture, and they put in the most unliked political candidate they possibly could have found, like just to test us. I mean, what was the point of installing Kamala Harris like that? What was the point of putting in somebody who actually was even less liked than Hillary Clinton? I mean, could they not? They just really have not learned their lessons at all. They just refuse to learn. I mean, they're absolute morons. So they put in the most unliked candidate ever. This is after more of the lies and gaslighting, the witch hunt of Donald Trump. After he's out of office, they still go after the guy because they know there's a chance he could come back to office. And they did everything they possibly could right in front of our faces to destroy democracy. They literally tried to take his name off the ballot. They tried to disqualify him from running. They tried to throw him in jail. They tried to kill the guy. And we watched them do it. And they think we're so stupid we didn't notice, that we wouldn't notice. That's what they thought. They thought that they could just do all of this and we wouldn't notice, and that we would reward them with winning another election. No, 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 they don't deserve to win. They didn't deserve to win. They didn't deserve it at all. They did absolutely everything they could to lose, and they lost bigly, as they should have. They 100% deserve to lose. The question now, after everything they did, and I know I'm missing half of it because they did so much. They did so much against us, not just against Donald Trump. They were smacking us in the face every time they did it. They treat us like idiots, like we're morons. They have no respect for us. They don't give two shits about us at all. And they did it all in our faces. And then they expected us to just vote for them. And if we don't, what? We're a racist. So the question now is, how are Democrats going to react to this? And they have two choices, or maybe more. But they can either look inward and realize they suck, and realize that none of this worked. This whole, you're a racist, you're a misogynist, you're spreading misinformation, you're a bot, you're working for Russians or Iranians, or you're all of these awful things. You're a criminal, all of these things. You're a terrorist, right? They did all of these things. They started a war. They turned a blind eye to a genocide. In fact, they funded it. They funded a genocide. They have funded another war that has slaughtered hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians and Russians. And they enacted and perpetuated a pandemic that ruined millions and millions of lives. They did all of this, and what are they going to learn? Are they going to learn that none of that worked, that didn't work? It's time to look inward. It's time to reflect. It's time to move forward. And it's time to just rethink your entire existence, quite frankly, like just your entire existence. Just rethink it. Rethink your whole strategy. Rethink your whole existence. They could do that. That would be the smart thing to do if they ever want to win another election. That would be the smart thing to do. Because now, Americans will remember what it was like under Biden. People say things were so bad under Donald Trump. No, they weren't. They weren't bad under Donald Trump at all. They just weren't. And so people will remember how bad they were under Biden when the next 4 years happens and we have another election in 4 years. People will remember. And the question is, are they going to go with whatever crap Democrats put in front of us again, whatever stinky crap they put in front? I don't even know who they're going to. I'm really curious. I'm really curious to see who they throw in front of us next time. Or are they going to, are they going to change and actually say, well, we better work on our strategy, our platform, deepen our bench, like get some good ideas, policies, and politicians. Maybe they'll do that. That's one option. The other option is, and this is what I'm afraid of. I'll tell you what I'm afraid of. People kept telling me Donald Trump winning will be so great because we'll get RFK Jr. in Health and Human Services. We'll get maybe Thomas Massey in as the Secretary of Agriculture. We'll get, somebody who's actually going to scrutinize the CIA and the FBI. Notice how he's not putting RFK Jr. in front of, in the intelligence agencies. He's going to put him in the Health and Human Services, where he could keep the Mike Pompeos around him to protect him and his family members from the CIA. But, maybe he'll do all of these really great things. Maybe some of the things he does are really great. Maybe some of the things are still kind of establishment-y. It's yet to be seen. I think that there will be some benefits, some things that are good. But what I'm afraid of and what I think might happen is Democrats. Now, remember, a lot of the things I listed happened during the Trump presidency last time. The president was not able to stop the Democrats from just going bonkers crazy. And he wasn't able to stop the private sector from going bonkers crazy with them, and from then enacting a lot of censorship, big pharma doing a lot of pressure with the pandemic and whatnot. That's the private sector, and government doesn't have much control over the private sector. And in fact, Republicans, they definitely don't want there to be any control over the private sector. So the private sector is still going to do what it does. And the private sector has worked to censor us. Yes, there were some instances of government pressure, like the Twitter files exposed, but a lot of it was just private sector having their own biases and them operating the way they operated. And there's nothing we can really do about that. There's nothing we could do about YouTube, for example, doing a bunch of censorship against people. When they have meetings, I have it on good authority to know that they have literal meetings at YouTube about misinformation. And you know who sits in those meetings to advocate for censoring the creators like me? It's the big media companies. It's not the government who's doing it. It's CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. They're sitting in the room. They're represented in those meetings, and they're saying, well, we need to combat misinformation. And so Americans need to get their information from trusted news sources. Trusted news sources like us, the mainstream news. They're doing it not because they believe in actual misinformation or thinking that we're really lying to the people. They're doing it because they want to keep their business going. They're threatened. They're threatened by the independent news organizations, the news creators, and they're doing everything they can to stop us. That's nothing to do with the government. That's just the private sector trying to hold on to its, hold on for its dear life. So there's this private sector. And a lot of the private sector in media, a lot of the private sector, they're liberal, right? They're ultra liberal. So and they're depressed today. They're very depressed. And they're thinking, how do we stop this from ever happening again? So my worry is that they're going to double down, triple down, quadruple down. And we're actually going to see things get worse on the front of censorship, on the front of our cultural erosion. They'll double down on the trans movement. They'll double down on all of these things just to throw it in our faces because they think, well, you people are racist, misogynist, bigots, and we're just going to show you. And the way they show us is by going way too far and causing tons of hate, chaos, and destruction. And I worry that they're going to do that. I worry that that's what they're going to do. And things are just going to get worse, actually, not because of Trump directly or his administration, but because of the reaction to Trump and his administration. That is what I worry about. I think we need to be suiting up for battle, everybody. Things are not going to get better. They're only going to get worse. Do you think Big Pharma, let me just ask you, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., let's just say he's somehow able to make it past the Senate confirmation, the Senate, which is largely bought off by Big Pharma. And let's say he's able to get past them and he's in charge. Do you think Big Pharma, which has bought off everybody and is in control of everything, do you think Big Pharma is going to really not do everything they possibly can to undermine him and the Trump presidency and the narratives? I mean, do you think Big Pharma is just going to roll over and take it? They're not. They're not. They're going to fight hard and dirty, and we don't even know exactly all the tactics they've got. So we have to be prepared because they have a way at undercutting. They know how to they see a group of people and they say, okay, these people, they're skeptics. They don't like it. Okay, what can we do to get them to now want this? How do we get them to want this? And so they find the sweet spot. They find that, it's just like with censorship. It was for a while there under the Trump administration, it was Democrats that were demanding censorship for misinformation. And it was people on the right, it was Republicans who were like, no, we don't want this type of censorship. We want protections against censorship. So the censorship czars that wanted censorship for whatever reason to control the population, or, it's like Homeland Security usually. They want that censorship. They want that ability. So they think, how do we get Republicans to want it? They don't want it right now. They're totally rejecting it. But how do we get them to want it? Oh, I know how. Tell them the kids are at risk. If you tell a conservative that they're coming for that the gays are coming for your kids, suddenly the conservatives are like, what can we possibly do to stop them? What are we going to do to stop them? The gays are coming for our kids. We got to stop them. And then they will agree to censorship. They will agree to control mechanisms, all under the guise of, we're going to protect the kids from the gays. I mean, that's really, they know the sweet spot, and they know that that's a sweet spot. So they know how to get to us each individually psychologically. They know where to push that button, that people will reject something because the other side says it. Naturally, they kind of have this rejection, but you could get them to go along with it if you just press the right buttons. It's just like war, right? We had a lot of Republicans who were super against the war in Ukraine, funding the war in Ukraine, but suddenly Israel goes to war, and what happens? Suddenly all of those potential, like Josh Hawleys of the world, who are kind of, he was the anti-Ukraine Russia war guy, really looking like he was an anti-war guy. But then Israel, we got to support Israel. Give them whatever they want, anything they want. Oh, war with Iran. Yeah, we should do that. Let's do it. They just know if they just flip it, that the button, just flip it, push that button, and we're all going to go along with it. And so liberals, they know that. So this game is played. And my concern is, going forward, I just worry that Democrats will not have learned their lesson. They're going to double down on everything, triple down, quadruple down. And I think we're in for it. I don't think that Big Pharma is going to let Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just do whatever he wants. I don't think the war machine is going to let the anti-war movement that has risen up, the more America First movement, I don't think they're going to let that pass. No way. They're not going to let that go. They've ensured that. They're going to throw stuff at us, and they've got sneaky tactics, and we have to be on high alert. And I think the censorship's going to ramp up. I think things are going to get worse. And it's not because of Trump as an administration. It's because of the reaction to Trump and his administration that I think is going to make things worse. So that is what I think they're going to do. And I think we got to be on absolute high alert about it. That's what we've got to do. All right, guys, let me move on first to our sponsor. Then we're going to get to some of those reactions that we've been seeing. We've got a lot of the reactions and responses from last night's election. So we're going to get to that. But first, let me tell you about Field of Greens. We all have two ages, our true age and our biological age. Our bio age suggests how healthy or unhealthy we are inside, and you want your bio age years younger than your true age. So let me tell you how Field of Greens is helping me do that. A medical test can reveal your body's biological age, which can show if you are aging prematurely. Better nutrition has been shown to reverse one's bio age. My hope of living longer and healthier is why I take Field of Greens. Field of Greens is an organic superfood, fruit, and vegetable drink unlike any other. It's serious nutrition. Listen to this. Field of Greens was approved for a university study that doctors believe may lower your body's biological age. That generally means better health. Each fruit and vegetable in Field of Greens was selected by doctors to support vital body functions like heart, liver, kidneys, metabolism, and immune system. Only Field of Greens is backed by this better health promise. So at your next physical or checkup, your doctor will notice your improved health or your money back. Join me in better health with 15% off and free shipping. Visit fieldofgreens.com. Use promo code Kim. That's promo code Kim at fieldofgreens.com, fieldofgreens.com.